Today we're looking at a Polaris ATV side-by-side instrument cluster, and the customer complaint with this one is that it's completely dead, and that is confirmed. I'm expecting to probably find corrosion damage since these things are getting submerged and power washed, so I'm sure water's getting blasted past the seals. Sorry, I can't talk today. I mean, usually these things aren't stuck on this bad. They're just held on by clips and are supposed to pop off. What am I stuck on? There we go. Yeah, all right, I do see a little bit of corrosion. Right down in this corner here. I'll see if I can zoom in even better on that. Come on, phone, are you focusing? Yeah, we got a little, this whole bottom row has some corrosion. I see a couple diodes, I suppose. Yeah, here's the connector your main power is coming in. Right in this area, that's where the corrosion is. So let's check that out under the microscope, clean up some of that corrosion, look for some failed traces, and maybe that's all this one's gonna need. Yeah, so that's why this screen didn't want to come up real easy, because of the corrosion. All the corrosion has gotten to the zebra strip. So we might have to make sure that's clean, otherwise we'll get missing digits on the screen, because that's where it transfers the signal. Yeah, there's some corrosion on the back side of the screen. It should be okay. With it under the microscope, I'm looking for the concentration of corrosion, so I know where to really focus in for any damaged foil or copper pads or components. And I'm just using 91% ISO and a toothbrush to clean away the majority of the corrosion here, to take a look what's underneath it. And again, just scanning for any eaten pads, eaten components. Using a little compressed air to blow everything off. I can see here we have a couple areas that need to be looked at closely. This resistor is one of them. With the corrosion cleaned up, there are two concerning areas I'm going to look into. We have a 200K resistor where the end lead is completely disintegrated, and then there is a transistor here with a lead that looks pretty rough. Now I think this spot for C21, originally it looked like it was missing. I think that's just an unpopulated spot. This whole section here is unpopulated. I think maybe it just wasn't tinned and it corroded faster than the other unpopulated spots, but I'll keep that in mind, but I think that's supposed to be missing. This R148 has got to go. This is the 200K resistor, and as you can see, the left side there is completely eaten away by corrosion. We're going to try to scrub the pad, see if we can get this copper pad to rejuvenate a little bit here, but not having a whole lot of luck. And the reason why I'm not having a whole lot of luck is because the pad is just gone. It's not even there anymore. You can see where the trace leads down to it, and it's not even connected to the trace anymore. So I'm going to scrub away a little bit just to make sure the pad is gone, which it is. And then I'm going to clean away a little bit of the solder mask on the trace. So I'm just going to scrape away here at the solder mask of the trace that the resistor is supposed to be connected to. You can see the break in it right there, how it is no longer connected to the pad. Here I'm getting it a little tinned up and prepped for the resistor, and I gotta mount this resistor sideways. It cannot go where it belongs because that pad goes nowhere now. So the little tilt to it here, I can make a connection to the trace that it's supposed to be touching. Doesn't look the greatest, but it's going where it's supposed to go. And now take a peek at this transistor. Well, it might actually be a diode. I think it's labeled D25. But either way, the component itself is fine. That just needs a little work to the solder joints. And this center pad here, the center connection is giving me a bit of a hard time. I just cannot get a good solder joint out of it. And well, there's a reason why I can't get a good solder joint, is because the pad under it is also eaten away. And I need to also scrape away the solder mask on the trace so I can get it to connect where it's supposed to be connected to. So there we have a good connection. I'm just going to double check with my multimeter to make sure we have continuity to that trace, and yes we do. Okay, with those two areas cleaned up, the transistor trace repaired and the resistor trace repaired, I'm just going to see if there's any life at all, because originally it was completely dead, nothing at all, no LEDs, no nothing. Oh, look at that. It's doing stuff. Sweet. All right, I think to test any further, I'm going to have to put the LCD screen back on and check for any missing segments. I did a pretty good job of cleaning up the copper contacts on the PCB, but the zebra strips here on the LCD are going to just need a little wipe down to get that corrosion off of there. But I think we're in business. I think we're getting somewhere. Screen's mounted, and during the very quick boot up screen test, but we're going to look for missing segments. So I'm going to plug it in. Am I getting glare? Looks like I'm getting. Let's try this one more time without the light on and see if we can find some missing segments. You know what? My camera, it's my phone. The camera on my phone struggles with the color blue. It just acts funny. But I did not see any missing segments there on that quick LCD test. It looks like it's all there. Now the next thing I'm going to check for is the buttons to make sure all these the three buttons work. There's an up mode and a down mode and an up button. That's where the corrosion was. But there's illumination LEDs that had some damage. They just illuminate the buttons. But if I remember correctly, in the mode you can change the color. Because right now, I see right now, this one button is missing one LED. But you can actually change the color. I just have to manage my way through the menus here. No, I don't want that. I want options. It's been a while since I fumbled around with one of these Polaris ones, but there should be some options. I think I push and hold the mode. Okay, options. Backlight level. Okay, that's up all the way. There we go. Backlight color. That's what I want. So now we're on blue. Yes, we are. There's red. Oh, okay. So here, all of the red LEDs are working. And we just have one blue one out. Yeah, I think even with that missing blue, even with the missing blue LED, I think it'll probably still illuminate with the one. Yeah, I think that, I don't know. I'll ask the customer how picky he wants to be about that one illumination LED missing. But I'm going to finish putting this back together. I'm going to go through each of the functions with my box here allows me to test all the functions, so I want to make sure there isn't anything that I'm not thinking about that might not be working. Please bear with me while I fumble my way through testing this thing. Try to get a good view of the screen here. I'm going to start with RPM, because the check engine light is just a dumb check engine light. And as soon as it sees there's some ripums, that will shut off. So let me go ahead and do that now. There we go. See that? The check engine light just shut off. We're at 500 RPMs. Let's get rid of this neutral light. I'm going to put it in gear. There we go. Neutral light's good. Let's check the miles per hour. I'll tell you what. We're on temperature. We'll check the temp. I'm going to turn up the temperature. And there we go. Engine temp is working. What's next? Mile per hour. Let me give it some speed here. And oops, I went too high. It doesn't like if you go over past a certain amount of RPMs, it doesn't like that. So I got to reset it. Please bear with me while I get this set back up again. Okay, I should be able to give it some. There we go, miles per hour. All right. There we go. I think it stops at 160. Okay, at 159. What's next? We know RPMs work, temperature works, speed works. The gear selector works, temperature works. I think I tested everything but the fuel gauge, and I can't test the fuel gauge because Polaris likes to change their sending unit, their fuel gauge sending unit values. So this is set up to test the older round Polaris ATV speedometer. So I won't be able to check the fuel gauge, but it is showing up on the indicator as full, and that's what I normally get with this. So I think it looks like this is completely working. Only has a little bit over 1,000 miles on the odometer. I can see why the guy wanted to fix it. It's low miles. Why can't I get... There's some way to change that. How do I do that? I don't want to enter service mode. That's options. We already know. Actually, the backlight, even though one of these blue lights was out, it still lights up pretty good. Let me just reboot this one more time here. If I remember right, I think there's a way to change the odometer screen. Oh, there we go. Does this button not work, or am I just understanding this wrong? So I can go down, and this area is changing. But if I go up, it won't go back. I wonder if this button is bad. Let me try making changes in the options menu here. Backlight level. Okay, so I can turn it down. Can I turn it up? No, I can't. My up button is bad. Yep. Okay. Gotta come back apart. With it torn back apart, I can check out the buttons. So is the button itself the problem, or do we have more corroded traces? Look at that, the button is fine. That's the button we're having problems with. This is the menu, or the mode they call it. That's fine because that was working, and this is the down arrow. I'm having a hard time holding my leads in here. Wow. Well, this button is the working button. Why am I not getting a good connection here? Maybe a little bit of corrosion still. Well, come on. You're a good button. Why aren't you working? Are my leads just not sitting right? Try this one more time. Maybe the button is a little bit intermittent. Or maybe my meter is more sensitive to a short than the actual circuitry is. Let's switch over to ohms and see if maybe I am changing resistance. It's just not low enough to trigger the continuity. Okay, so this is the button open. Oh, let me get, and that's with the button closed. So there is a small change, but maybe there's a little bit of corrosion in there. Maybe I'll just start by taking a resistance measurement of the good button, the mode button. So there's the open state. It's up at around, ooh, that really jumped up, 80K. Okay, and then I push the button, 0.4 ohms. Okay, so 0.4 ohms is kind of a target of the closed button. So let's go to the arrow down button that was working. I'm gonna push it. 0.7, is that, am I reading that right? So here's open. Why is the open state? Oh, that's 0.7K. Was I reading that wrong? Okay, so that's 4 ohms closed, which is probably not low enough. 0.5K. Come on, what is this? I might have to replace this button too. So yeah, there we are again, back at around 4 ohms with a button closed. And it should be closer to 0.4 ohms. Let's check the button that wasn't working at all. 0.3 ohms. Okay, so the button that wasn't working might actually be good, but it might have trace damage. It might have a corroded trace somewhere keeping that button from working. And the middle button seems fine. It's consistent. Now the arrow down button was working, but I'm getting some high resistance. So I'll just replace this one for sure, the button itself. Now this probably just has trace damage. I was about to pull up this button and take a look underneath to see if there's any damaged traces, but I flipped it over, and upon scanning my papers, focus phone, I might just have to switch to microscope. Each of these buttons have a 100 ohm resistor under them. And this 100 ohm resistor on the button that wasn't registering, well, one of them is all nasty looking and corroded. So got one more resistor to replace, and that should take care of that non-functioning button. This resistor has got to go. When solder joints are corroded, they're always a little more stubborn. Here we have another pad that has just been completely eaten away by the corrosion. I'll need to scrape away again at the solder mask to get access to where it's supposed to connect. And this resistor is also going to have to be mounted a little crooked so it can reach. Just going to get that trace tinned up. All right, that is its new home. Just going to double check to make sure it's anchored to that little bit of trace there, and yeah, it's good. So I'm going to permanently set this one in. And to take a look at the others, this one also looks a little rough. I think the resistor will survive. It just needs a little solder joint cleanup. A little flux and scraping should bring that one back around. This one will be okay. I'm just going to double check it with my multimeter to make sure it's 100 ohms, and it is, and we're good. Now it's time to remove the intermittent button, and right after this my microscope camera stopped recording, so we have no footage of me putting the new button on, but there is a new button in this location now. Back together again, hopefully for the last time this time. So I replaced this button because it's intermittent, and this is the button that had the 100 ohm resistor under it that was all corroded and nasty. So now hopefully we have 3 working buttons. Let me turn off that light there. Come on, phone. Yeah, my phone just does not like the color blue. It's just not picking it up. Weird. Okay, let's try this light. Nope. Let's test the buttons. Why is my phone is like completely washing out the display. There. Okay, finally we're there. Let's check the mode. Yes, we're changing the mode. The middle button has always worked. This is the down button. Changing the center column here. That's working, and then the up button, and look at that, it is working. Yes, all buttons are working. Everything else has already been tested. So this one is complete. As far as I can tell, it is fully functional, except for one blue LED under this half of the button. But as you can see, it lights up fine. So thanks for watching. Keep your eyes peeled for my next video. It's going to be a review of another multimeter from Banggood. And this one is surprisingly good. It has a thermal camera that is shockingly good. So stay tuned.